call on George Adam to be followed by Cara Hilton, a generous 6 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I enjoy debates like this because it gives us the opportunity to really discuss an important issue like this in a way that we can up here, not in the partisan way that is done in other places. And I think it brings up some important issues that have already come up in this debate. We now know that Christian Allard attended university but did not study there. The rest of the story, Presiding Officer, was probably too much information. So swiftly moving on, I think we can take from today's debate that our international students make a valuable contribution to Scotland's economy and society. In fact, I would say that we must, as a nation, retain international students because they contribute so much to our communities. In Paisley, in the University of the West of Scotland, they have recruited non-EU international students for some time, and they have made such a difference to our community. And the challenge for us is to make sure that they stay within the community and they actually do not move on later on. The other thing that was brought up by Mark Griffin was quite right about Chinese students, because in UWS they have also recruited quite a lot of Chinese students there as well. And how we deal with that is the way forward. We've seen the potential, and as my colleague Christian Allard has already said, what's not to like about it? You know, according to Higher Education Statistics Agency, Scottish higher education institutions receive an overall income of £374 million. And this has already been said by Chick Brodie from other non-EU international students. These figures represent 12% of the total income for Scottish higher education institutions. But off-campus expenditure by international students amounts to some £12.2 million. Local businesses in Paisley have benefited from this over the years, but as a town it's something that we still need to develop further, and it's something that we need to ensure that we get the advantage, and other communities in the country get an advantage of being a university town. So you can see why education and business leaders in Scotland have clearly set out a case for the reintroduction of post-study work visas in Scotland. The Westminster Government's policy on this issue is wrong and is limiting our universities' potential and limits our economy. We in Scotland need to find a way to be able to retain these individuals. It is, of course, welcome that the Smith Commission's view was that UK and Scottish Governments should work together to explore a potential post-study work scheme in Scotland. And we're all hopeful, and today's debate is quite useful in that as well, that the Smith Commission can deliver on this, because we need to have that power to ensure that Scotland has the opportunity to make the legislation we need to work for us. But the post-study working group report confirms that it calls for the post-study to reinstate, obviously, as we've already said, and how the scheme would operate, and asking the UK and Scottish governments to work together. And it also recognises that post-study work visa is an important lever for attracting the best international students, ensuring that we manage to get everyone over to our institutions here, and they see Scotland as a way forward for them, and ensure that they can actually live the rest of their lives here. One of the interesting points was that the survey was that Scottish business and education providers showed that 90% of all the respondents were in favour of bringing back the post-study work visa for international students, and 100% of the education providers and 85% of businesses. So that just shows you how important that is to all the people involved in this. And the Minister, Humza Yousaf, has stated previously, one of his comments he said is the immigration policy is currently too heavily influenced by the priorities of the South East of England, based on the values of the current UK Government and driven by a desire to reduce the numbers of incoming migrants, which does not recognise Scotland's needs, nor does it serve our economic or social interests. And I think that's the whole point of this debate, as we are saying we're trying to find a Scottish solution for this situation. Now, even some of the universities themselves, Professor Pete Downs, convener of the University of Scotland, principal of University of Dundee, said the case to allow international students to work in Scotland was overwhelming, and described the UK's current immigration policy as anti-competitive and a deterrent to highly skilled students and staff, and it's hurting our universities. Now, we currently are working in a position where our universities are internationally renowned and doing very well, but we need to take these quotes on board, and we also need need to look at what Alistair Sim, the Director of Universities Scotland, said. A strong presence of international students is an asset to Scotland's universities and Scotland as a whole, as well as making a significant economic contribution. So everyone has agreed that we need to move this forward. I know that Claire Baker and Jim Eadie have already mentioned about our competitors in the international market, but it has to be said the United States and Canada are good examples of countries offering post-study work visas for international students. The number of international students, as already has been said, in the USA has increased by 5.5%, and the number in Canada by 7.3%. So that shows you that if you've got the ability to do that, it can make a difference. Professor Anton Muscatelli, Principal of Glasgow University, says that the current UK policy is a message that says, don't come here. We're closed for business, we're closed for education. It's exactly the opposite message that a number of other countries are sending, including the US, Canada, Australia. I don't think that's what we should be. I don't think that we should be there as a country. And I think he's right. I think we have to say that we don't want to be here. This debate is a perfect example of how, as a country, Scotland, we don't want to be there. And it's representative, even though our colleague Liam MacArthur was quite negative in some of the things he said here today. That is not the reality of the situation. Scotland does see itself as a country. We are a country that has always encouraged immigration. We have worked together with people from other cultures, and they have delivered and made our culture so much better as well. So I would say, Presiding Officer, in closing, that we need to have these powers, we need to embrace this, and we need to ensure that we can make this difference. As my colleague Christian Allard said, if we get these powers, what's not to like about that?
Many thanks.